Welcome everybody to the Sydney String Centre, and I'm so excited about our presentation today. As a string player, growing up, I always found learning theory difficult. It's very abstract, especially when you're young, and I think many of you probably play piano, but I found once I started playing piano and there was a lot of material out there, everything started to make more sense, but it is very difficult as string players to get started. And over the last few years, we've had the very talented Lorraine Chai, who is a violin teacher, create this beautiful series of books to help us get started as string players with music theory. We've had the books in the store for a few years now. Many of us have been using them ourselves and with our students, and can vouch that they've been very, very, very helpful. So I'm very excited to be presenting Lorraine Chai or welcoming Lorraine Chai, who has just stepped off the plane from Singapore, where
Malaysia.
she held. Oh, sorry, Malaysia. Oh, Malaysia. It was Malaysia. I'm sorry,
Yes.
from Malaysia. Yeah, I'm very grateful for the time that you're giving us today to share everything that you have with Stringstastic and theory. So, please welcome Lorraine. Yeah.
Thank you, Douglas. Now, I'm a kind of person that doesn't like people sitting in the back, because I used to be that kind of people. So can we kind of move forward a bit?
Sure. Yep.
Fill out the front row, I would say. I won't bite you, that's okay. All right, so my workshop's always different. My workshop is not all about me just vomiting out all this knowledge. It's about you guys also interacting. So at least it's not just giving knowledge, it's to see how things work. So before we start, just a show of hands, how many of you are teachers? Okay, how many of you are parents? I mean, all of you are, I would assume. How many are parents but have not or don't know anything about strings? Kinda. How many of you are parents and know something about strings? Great, okay, there's a mixture of people. Now, if there's any questions whatsoever, please do ask. All questions are welcome, and all questions are not stupid questions. These are questions that possibly somebody else may have. But before I start, I want to address the elephant in the room, because I get this a lot. People think I am a fresh grad when I'm only 21. I've been teaching for more than 25 years, so I may look young. I am the oldest of 4, but I am always thought of or being addressed as the youngest of 4. So I've got siblings in my family are all in Malaysia, and I'm here. But as Doug mentioned, the whole concept of theory is very different, where back in the day, you started with the piano first, and then you transition into strings, where in this day and age, you have students that just want to do strings, right? And the way that I brought Stringstastic is, it's from a point of view of a student, because how many of you like doing theory? How many of you hate theory? Okay, hate's a bit harsh, right? So in order for a student to learn theory, they have to enjoy something. It's the same as instruments. They have to be able to enjoy an instrument before they actually excel in it. And when they like something, they learn quicker, right? Am I right? So how many of you have kids that are just studying with the string instrument? Violins? Violas? Cellos? Do we have double basses here? Double basses are a rare thing. Would you like to come up front? Oh, no, that's fine. It's a bit daunting, isn't it? All right, so today we're just going to touch base. I can talk all day because I'm a talker, but we're going to just touch base in terms of a couple of things that may help you at home with your students, or whether or not you're teaching in your studio or at home with your kids, even though you don't know anything about strings. And at least you can perceive to your kids, close your ears, kids, that mom and dad knows something about strings, even though you don't know anything about strings. So here is a bit of a hint. Now, what if theory could be fun, simple, and the key of a faster progress? For me, learning an instrument or learning music is easy because for me, it felt like a puzzle. So for me, learning was easy, but when I first started teaching, I realized that all students learn differently. So it's more of how you explain things. And the thing is, we can't explain to our students and our kids the same way we learned back in the day because the language is completely different to today. And as we all know, our attention span in this day and age is so poor comparatively to back in the day, especially with technology. It's like, what can you do and what can you use to maximize the learning of your students and your kids? So if you look at the photos here, it's ranging from kids age 3. So the books are designed for students age 3 up to however old you are. So I've had a student which is about 70-year-old that had decided to pick up the violin. And yes, you can do it, but maybe not the kiddish-looking books. It's more of the graded studies. So I've covered all range, but with the Stringstastic books, I've come across majority, 99% of the students end up trying to do the whole book because they love it so much that they want to do the whole book. And it's an amazing experience. If you look at the picture on the left, those are kids or my nonprofit project in Nepal where I brought the whole concept of music. And those are kids that have never done music in their entire life, have never seen the instrument at all. String Center did help as well in terms of the donation of the instruments. But it was bringing the whole concept of music. And by the end of 1 week, they could read music just by using the books. They could hold an instrument up by the end of 1 week. And this is from a third world country, someone that had never seen a string instrument, never held one, never read music in their entire life to be able to do it. And that's the concept of them understanding the theory and going through the activity in that sense. So 85% of students who understand basic music, they show improved off-sight reading skills. The way that I teach my students is you need to know how to read. I know there's a lot of different methods like the Suzuki method. And these books are designed where, even though you're doing the Suzuki method, it's understandable where they can also learn it, even though the teacher is teaching the Suzuki method. So the whole concept of this book is you can use it in a string ensemble, because the way that I look at this is no student gets left behind. It's like a military thing. No student gets left behind because if you have students that are more advanced in the group, they may feel bored. If you have students that don't know how to read at all, they may feel left behind. So if you use these books, whether or not it's an ensemble setting or at home, if the teachers don't teach theory in their lesson, you can still use it at home where you as a parent can guide them through that process while presenting it as you know your stuff, even though you may not know it. So that's the stats where once students understand the concept of music, they are able to learn faster and get more songs and learn more songs, and they're really excited about it. The power of music theory, you get to read and play fluently, boost confidence, and practice is more efficient. I find students tend to have better sight reading than when they're practicing, and it's a really interesting concept. So I do ensembles as a conductor, and there's many times where, especially in intermediate strings, where I've come across a whole bunch of students and half of them don't know how to read music because they're all taught by the Suzuki method. And the parents, I don't know if you're one of those parents, they're like, no, we want to go at advanced strings next year. We want to go intermediate, we want to go advanced. We want to, level up as quickly as possible. We want our kids to excel as quickly as possible. So for me as a conductor is looking in a sense where I don't want my students to get bored. I want them to learn as much resources where you can play as many pieces as you want. Where if it's Christmas, you don't want to be practicing Christmas songs for 6 months. You can just pick up a song and play Christmas songs, or Happy Birthday, you can just try and figure it out. But the whole concept of theory is for them to experiment. Like I was brought up where you just play as you're told and that's it. The whole concept of improvisation, the whole concept of creating your own rhythm, creating your own music, even though you're just playing open strings, even though you haven't even touched the bow, starts from the very beginning. So at least it gets their curiosity in terms of, oh my gosh, Mom, I just created a song. Even though it's open string, it gets them excited in terms of the whole concept of practicing and playing the instrument. Who am I? I am Lorraine Chai, as Doug said. I'm an international educator where I have 26, I think it is by now, 26 books globally. I do have books in American terminology. They are not sold here in Australia. So if you want American terminology, you have to look somewhere else. And my books, I started with the ensemble series where you have the violin, viola, cello, and double bass. And that's for the primary school area. But I realized that some kids can be slow learners. I realized that some kids start from age 3, which is where my mini-series came from. Do we want to pass it around? If those of you that are not familiar with it, can we pass it around, Doug? So at least you guys get to look through it. So how many of you have used my Stringstastic books before? How many of you have not heard of Stringstastic before? Okay, cool. So we'll pass some of this around, so at least you get to look through it. The books that Doug is taking out are one of the best sellers because they're stickers. And kids love stickers. Sometimes you have kids, they come to lesson and the stickers are all gone. So you have to make it, you have to tell them not to take out all the stickers. Oh, you can take out the rest as well. So those of you that want to look through the viola, I think we've got one viola player at the back. Do we have any cello players? Yep. You have the cellos and then just the strings. So it's a step-by-step where it's a concept of them understanding the basics and looking towards the pattern. I am a best-selling author of the Stringstastic. There are heaps of music theories out there. I am aware of it. Some of them are my colleagues, but the way that my books are designed is it's designed for the benefit and from the point of view from a student rather than a teacher, because if you have too much words or if it's too overwhelming, sometimes the kids are like, no, it's too much. So it's simple and straightforward, but the sticker ones are for slower learners or younger beginners, and then these are for primary school ones. The graded series are ones for those that are doing exams. So it does have the base clef there for those that are doing theory exams, and it does cover a variation of examination board. So it's not just one examination board, it covers a variation from examination board. But it helps them understand in the concept of patterns, as I said, and notation. I am still the vice president of String Teachers Association at the moment, but that is who I am. Now, proven techniques, turn learnings into play, and hands-on learnings. Now with theory, I grew up because my mom's a music teacher, a piano player. I grew up where mom's like, you need to do theory, do it. And for me, it was like, oh, okay. And then even with violin, like I went for violin lesson and waiting for my violin lesson, my teacher's like, all right, do it. So for me, it was doing it. I never saw theory as a bore, but I know majority of students and teachers do not like theory. And because they do not like theory, they don't teach it in their lessons, or majority. I know some of you love theory and your kids love theory, but majority of students and teachers don't like theory, they don't want to touch theory, and they're like, get your piano teacher to teach theory, you know, but the thing is, it can be fun. And sometimes you have students that come to lesson, they're like, I'm a string player, why do I need to do, you know, this theory when it's talking about the piano? I'm not doing piano, why should I do this, you know? So that's why this came about. Now we're gonna do a little bit of games and plays, so if you guys could, you know, work with me, it would be great. But there are a couple of props that you can work with, and I can see one string instrument there, which is great because you're gonna use that. Do you play?
It's actually not mine, it's a little tiny viola.
Okay.
You can get it.
No, you can do it. No, that's amazing. So even though you haven't done it, it would be good if you could try. No, if you could try, it would be good too. So from someone that doesn't know it, it's pretty easy. All right, so let's play. I'm gonna have a couple of props before we go through things. And I want to ask in terms of the variation of what you can do with those things. So I've got a couple of ping pong balls. What can you do with this in terms of teaching?
Passing it around, and when the music stops, you get someone to answer a question or to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? Sorry? Bounce them. And the concept of teaching beats. Good. Okay. What else? Oh, you could? Yes, yes, you could. What else? I think if some of you play golf or your husbands play golf, it's the same size, same thing. What I do with this is, do I have it here? No, I don't. I write the concept of step and skip. Step and skip, skip or step up and down. And when I run my music theory sessions, because I teach in music theory groups, I have lines on the floor where they understand the concept of the notes moving up and down. Because sometimes kids, they know it goes up, but they don't know how far. So if you have like step and skip and you put it all in a box and you draw it out, then you can go, oh, it's a step up. So how far does the note move? They can understand that. With the concept of steps, they can understand where, oh, okay, I put the next finger down, or I take the next finger off because it's moving by step. Or skipping, oh, okay, I'm skipping a finger. So that's what I do with these balls. You can, if you follow social media, there's a concept of rhythm, right? Where you have like, I think there was one that went viral in terms of a bowl, like 4 bowls for 4 beats, where you have each ping pong ball on each, and then you clap the beat, and then if you have 2 balls in one bowl, it's like a faster note for following the beat. So that's another way of going at it. You don't have to have ping pong balls. You can have fruits, whatever you have in the house. You can have stones, but it's like, and then in terms of the stone, you can also write that concept of skip and step. But I always start with the basic, is the steps and the skips, instead of, okay, let's skip 2 fingers, or let's skip one, like, let's skip 3 fingers kind of thing, or skip 3 notes. It's them recognizing the steps and the movement of that. So that's one way of using the ping pong balls. Now, finger puppets. What can we do with finger puppets or puppets? No idea. No. I have to get your imagination running. All right, finger puppets, what I do is I teach the concept of time signatures. So because when they see time, they can identify as an item. You're already teaching the concept of time, which is like, oh, this note is 2 seconds. You already teach the concept of beats. But to add more numbers it's very confusing, right? So I've labeled them as A, B, C, D, where I'm like, okay, so how many beats can you put in this bar? How many beats can you put in that bar? Where they can physically get an item and place them there, where they say, oh, okay, it's this puppet, it's this item. Or it's like the concept of shopping. What you can do with them is finger exercise 2 as a game, where you say, oh, okay, let's put the hippo down as finger 1. Let's put the mouse down as finger 2, and play around with the concept of puppets. I know you kids are up for it. You want to play these? Yes, no, maybe? You sure? Okay. All right, so that's that. Now, who does not like Lego? Do you guys like Lego? What can you do with Lego? Yes?
Oh, this one I already do it. The blocks actually fit out perfectly with teaching them about tempo and the rhythm for it. So you can have 1, 2, 3, 4 dots on the Lego, and then you can divide it up into, well, this block has 2 dots, so that way it would be 2 beats, and you could break it up that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Semi-brief.
It works really, really well for those who are far more visual, because the buttons actually match.
Absolutely, in terms of the sizing, right? So you can use this in terms of teaching them the concept of time. And the thing is, because it fits so well, you can help them understand the value where that, and there's a gap there, they understand that value. And it's getting them to create something, right? If you don't have this, that's okay. Because I've got cards, flashcards, where is the concept of them, and it's bigger, so it's better you don't lose them. This one, I've got kids taking it home, and I'm like, where's my Lego? And they're taking it home. So the concept of this, where some people use the French time, some people use the Hungarian time, some people use different terminologies. You can get this on my website as a downloadable version. You can make it yourself. Some parents like to make it themselves. Some parents don't want to make it themselves. and just prefer the downloading thing. So we'll just do a couple of exercises, right? I've written here ta. You can change it into words. So I've done this where I get them to come up with their own words, right? So like that, you can go eggs, 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 or let's say ball, 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 ball. There was a workshop that I did in Malaysia, and everyone used food. By the time I finished the workshop, everyone's like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. So maybe don't use food. So we're going to do this exercise, and I want you to say it and clap it with me. And some kids don't like to say it. I'm like, you need to do both so that I know what you're thinking up here. Because they're like, I don't want to say it out loud. It's like, no, we're going to do it. So we're going to clap it with me. You're going to repeat after me. So I'm going to clap it first. So it's going to go ta, 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 ta. Good. Simple? Great. Simple. Now, I'm going to change something, right? And it's going to be, let's use this. Okay? Again, if you want to use we can use ta, ti, ti, ta, ta, or you can go egg, egg, sausage. I don't know, egg, sausage, egg, egg. Create something, right? Kids love that, creating. So I'm going to use the ti, ti. So it's going to go ta, ti, ti, ta, ta. Some kids are like, I don't want to clap it. Nope, you got to do both. So let's do both. So ta, ti, ti, ta, ta. Great. Okay, now that they know that, and remember, it's just leveling up. Now that they know that, let's add this. Wow, what is this? That means it's quiet. So it's ta, ti, ti, ta. All right, so ta, ti, ti, ta. Okay, so I'm going to get, this is just one line. We can usually do 4. I like to do 4. But I'm going to get you guys, one of you two. Come. Let's go. Easy. And then I'll get a parent. Oh, good boy. Okay, so come here. You can choose from any and create something for me. So 4 cards. Okay, and then you're going to arrange it for me on the music stand. Brilliant. Was that easy? Yeah. Okay. All right, so does that look correct? It does look correct. Would you like to clap that? Okay, ready? Go. Good. Now we're going to copy that. All right, you want to clap it again so everyone can copy you? Go. Ta, ti, ti, ta, ti, ti. Simple. Now we have an instrument. Can we open up that instrument? So this is layering. It's creating a rhythm, and then it's like, oh, okay. Now let's transfer that information, that knowledge, into an instrument. But I don't know how to use my fingers yet. That's okay. I don't know how to use the bow yet. That's okay. Can you play the string instrument?
Well, not a viola, but...
That's okay. Okay, so we're going to start with just the open string. So any open string, it doesn't matter if it's out of tune. And I know it's too small for you, but that's okay.
Children like it? Do you play viola?
Oh, you don't need the bow. You don't need the bow. Yeah, let's make it easy.
Do you want to demonstrate for everyone?
Never mind, let's have you do it. Yes, let's do it. Okay, go. Pluck any string you want. Was that simple? It was simple. Great. Now, after you've done that, and it's like if you've done the 4 lines and they've done that, it's like, okay, now the advanced level is, now you know how to use your fingers. Let's play on one string. Let's pick, like, let's say a D string. Let's pick a D string where I want you to create your own tune using the rhythm that you have just created, because they created it, and I want you to start using your fingers on it. Any finger on that one string, and they love it. They start playing it. So it doesn't matter. You can use your fingers if you want to. Pick a string. Yeah. And then once they're good at it, they can use the bow and do exactly that. So it gets their curiosity going in terms of, oh, okay, this is how I can, make that connection in terms of that. Some kids like to be more adventurous in terms of using these harder ones. I'm like, okay, can you clap it and do it? And I'm like, oh no. I say, right, let's go back to the basics first, and then we can add on to it. And then if you want to make it tricky, now let's put the metronome on top of it. All right, let's speed it up. How fast can you do this? And if you want to, you can just use the cards to say, okay, how fast can you do this? Let's see if mom can clap it faster than you, or you can clap it faster than mom without any mistakes with the beat. And then you just clap it. Say, all right, let's speed it up. Let's speed it up. So there's different ways of how you can do this. But it gets the curiosity going. So instead of, let's watch some cartoons, let's create some stuff. And then what you can do is get them to write their rhythm on a piece of paper. So it's them improvising and them creating their own music, and they get really excited about it. So remember, it's starting from the basics in understanding rhythm, so they don't really need to do the fingers yet. It gets them playing, because kids want to play. You want to play, right? Or you don't want to play? Oh, because mom is here, you don't want to tell me. All right, so that's one way of doing it. Now, what do you think I can do with this?
I had someone in my orchestra with one of those on recently, and it was kind of bent into the sound post so they knew how to bow straight.
Ah, that's one way.
I've never seen that before.
Okay, what else?
Can you bend it into a treble clef shape?
That could be one way. If they could, that's a hard one. Right? This is how I explain a crotchet rest. A crotchet rest is like a line. Now, what value is it when I straighten this line? What number does it look like? 1. That's why it's 1 count. Oh. So once they see the visual, it's very easy for them to understand that. What else can you do with this? What do you think you can do with this? Make a note out of it. You can make a note out of it. Okay, show me. Make a minim note. Hey, you got it. Okay, make me a semi-brief. What is a semi-brief? There you go. Good job. Well done. Thank you. See? And the thing is, what you can do is, okay, can you do this quickly? I'm going to time you. And then make it as a game. So if you're doing it if you're teachers and you have a group lesson, that's why I always love teaching theory in groups, because kids can be competitive. Say, how quickly can you do this? All right, guys, let's do the minim. How quickly can you do this? Say, all right, how quickly can you do a semi-brief? And of course, you can't do this as a crotchet, because you do need the black part of it. So there's different ways of doing it. Now, when you have those flashcards in terms of notation, I know a lot of the notations out there are all designed for grand stave, where you have the bass clef as well. And it doesn't quite help when you do the cello or when you do the viola in a different clef, or if you have a kid that does tenor. So these ones are also downloadable from my website, because I've had kids where it's like, oh gosh, I have to draw the treble clef, I have to draw the bass clef, and I have to draw the alto clef and things like that. But this can be helpful too. So with the concept of the books, if you guys have those books, whether or not it's the blue or the purple, it talks about each string, and it talks about the finger numbers. So there's 2 ways that they are learning. They're learning about the pattern, the number 0, 1, 2, 3, or 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 3, 4, or the double bass will be different, 0, 1, 4. And it also includes in terms of the letters. So I know Suzuki uses the numbers, which is helpful. I get my students to do both the numbers and the letters. Then it's up to them to decide which method they want to use. So some kids are like, oh yeah, that's a D3. What's a D3? Oh, that's a G, like if they're a violin player or they're a viola player. So they understand the connection with that. So when they read their music, they can go, okay, this is on the D string. This is all in first position. So I'm not talking about third position, fourth position, or any other position. This is all the basic. Now, on top of them understanding and connecting the dots with that, now it's, all right, let's get your instrument out. Okay, can you play me this note on the instrument? Then they transfer that knowledge into the instrument where they go, oh, okay, it's a first finger. And then you parents that don't know the instrument, you can look at the book, say, okay, oh, that's good, you did the right thing. So, at least your kids don't go, oh, Mom, you don't know this. Don't tell me what to do. So it's easy to follow with that. Okay, now with this one you can do at home. Depends on how old your kids are. I like to challenge them with this. And this is more of a coordination thing, right? Where this one says 1, and that means if you use the metronome. Do we have a metronome here we could use? Yeah, that's a good one. Or the phone. Which one's louder? I like the old school one. I don't know about you all.
I have an old school one at home, but
just don't drop it.
Yeah, the phone is far more convenient and accessible for kids.
It is. All right, so we're going to do a little bit of activity on this one. And I do this for my slightly like grade 1, grade 2. You can do it earlier if you want to, for coordination. So the coordination, can we hear it? Let's try and see if it's loud enough, because once you start clapping, you can't really hear it.
For grade 1, do you mean their age or their playing level?
Oh, it doesn't matter if it's a playing level or whether or not their age. It doesn't really matter. But it depends on how quick and how their coordination is. And the thing is, you can do slow. I think that's louder. But thanks, though. Okay, this is louder. Let's put it on 60 without the ding. Pull. I think it's a pull. Is it wind up all the way? Okay. Yeah. All right, super slow, super easy. So we're going to do this, right? I want you to have your feet flat because you're going to use both laps. See if you kids can do it better than the adults. Yeah. All right, so 1-1 means we're going to follow it where both hands does the 1-1. Easy, right? Okay, keep going. Now, I'm going to put this number 2 here, which means you're going to clap 2 in 1 beat. Double. Yeah, good. Okay. I'm going to take this. Actually, let's do this. Let's do the easier step. This is more coordination. 3 in 1 beat. 1 and a pineapple. So both hands are doing it. Great, you guys can do it. Yay! All right, let's do this. What's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. What words has 4 syllables? Watermelon. And get them to say if they can't do it, right? So let's go back to 1. Okay. You guys are amazing, man. All right, let's do this. One hand is still holding the beat. So one hand is keeping the beat and the other one is doing 2. Hard, isn't it? Okay, and then once you know it, it's like really easy. Okay, so let's do you adults. Pineapple. Yeah, and saying words help. Okay, so I want you kids, one of you want to come up? You're a good boy. You're going to help keep the beat. So, Okay, you can stand here, stand here. Okay, we're gonna make it faster, and you're gonna pinpoint to see if any adults can keep up. Okay, I'm gonna put this here so they can see this. So all you have to do is just tap the 1, 1, 1, 1, and you're gonna look out to see if any adults are struggling. Okay. Okay, I'm not gonna be that cruel. Pineapple, 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 pineapple. Do you see anybody that's... Anybody? Do you see anyone? Everyone's doing well? Is everyone doing well? Cool. Okay, let's go back to this, the simple one. Yeah. All right. What do you think? Thank you. Good job. What do you think? Was it hard as a parent? Was it hard as a teacher? Was it hard? Tricky? Especially when it gets faster, isn't it? And you're like, oh my gosh, let's see who can do it better, you or mom. Or, I don't know, you or your sister. And then they get competitive. They're like, oh, let's practice this. And they start practicing by themselves outside instead of being, stuck on the iPad. Not fan of the iPad, mind you guys. I'm quite old school, as you can notice that. But you can create this at home if you want to. This is more of coordination. So it takes them away from the instruments. Like, oh, do I have to practice again, Mom? I hate practicing. I love playing. I hate practicing. Okay, let's just do a game. Let's do this. And you get them wanting to practice this because they want to be better than their friends or mom. They want to be better than their teacher. They want to be better than their friends, So that's something to learn about with that. Okay, any questions? Yes. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so yeah, but like for rhythm, especially when you're in like a grade 3, grade 4, the concept of rhythm, sometimes kids memorize and they're like, no, we need to, instead of saying, no, you have to do it, it's like, okay, let's see if we can challenge you. It's changing the words where it becomes something else. So it's like, okay, let's see if you can read this. So it's reading the rhythm so that they can focus on reading the notes later on, which is easier because then they're like, oh, okay, I can do this. And then in terms of practice, it's like, okay, let's see if you can just clap the rhythm first before playing it. And they clap. And then they can't do it, it's like, all right, can we say the rhythm out and clap it at the same time? Because kids, the way they learn is, if they can hear themselves, they work better. They're like, oh, I'm saying it in my brain. It's like, no, I want to see if your brain is saying it correctly. So then they have to say it out loud and clap it at the same time. It's like, why do I have to do both? Well, you're playing the instrument, right? But I want to know how your brain thinks, whether or not your brain's doing the right thing. So that's why if you say and clap it at the same time, then okay. It's like, right, let's do a passage. Doesn't matter what grade you are. Let's do a passage where it's just working on the rhythm. Let's clap it first. It's like, great, let's do it slow first. Now, let's do it just on the open string. Play the rhythm just on the open string. All right, let's add notes now. Then you add notes. At least they can make that connection between the theory part. Because sometimes when you do theory, kids or students, they don't make that connection. It's like, hang on a second, you know your stuff, right? But they just don't make that connection between the knowledge part to the playing, the practical part. But if you help them through that process where, hang on, like this has a connection with this, and like, oh, that's right. Like to you, it may seem like common sense, but sometimes kids don't make that connection or, make that connection with the theory base in terms of, yes, you need this so that this will be easier for them. So it's transitioning from the knowledge base into the instrument themselves. And then if your kid's like, oh, you can't play this, Mom, like my teacher knows how to do this. Oh, let me show you. Then they're thinking, okay, let's see who can play this better. So you can use the concept of creating a rhythm. And then you can create your own rhythm. Your kids can create their own rhythm. And then you swap, say, let's see if you can play my rhythm and I can play your rhythm. So it makes it like an interactive kind of thing. And then if you're busy cooking, say, okay, I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to create your own rhythm, and then don't go crazy because you have to play it yourself. And then you do your cooking a little bit, and then you come back, you're like, oh, okay, let's do this. Or play for me. So they play for you. Say, all right, I'll give you half an hour. I want you to create your own rhythm. Write it on a piece of paper in terms of what you created, and I want you to play it for me. So then you can do that while you do your cooking or your cleaning, and then you say, okay, and then you take a little bit of a break and go, all right, show me what you've got. Then at least you can guide them through and say, oh, let's see if we can change this. Let's see if you, or you can do it in advance where you created your own rhythm. You like, see if you can play mom's rhythm. So it gets them, I'm gonna get you to practice my rhythm without telling them that you're doing housework or something else. And then they can do it and the side say, I'm gonna give you 15 minutes to do this. So it gives them a deadline in terms of, practicing it. So there's many different ways on how you can experiment and how you can communicate with your kids in that regard. All right, so my books have been loved by many teachers and students global. It is the #1 bestseller, but like I said, the bestseller is usually the stickers, and for lower grades, as we all know, kids love stickers. But we have teachers globally that like it. My books are the only books that have music theory for double bass and cello. I think there are a few that are designed for viola and cello, but my books are the only ones that have it for double bass players. So, like I said, it's all designed for kids' point of view, where they understand it even if they do it by themselves, but it's always better if a parent or an adult works it with them. We do have distributors globally. Sydney Strings is my distributor here in Australia. Southeast Asia, it's been in Malaysia, Taiwan, Macau, Cambodia, Singapore, Indonesia, Kathmandu. And Europe, we've got a distributor there that covers UK, France, Germany, Ireland, Poland. The next step for me and Stringstastic is to be in the US and Canada. We don't have a distributor yet there, but we do have orders that are coming from there. So it is a well-liked music theory books that you can consider with your kids. With Stringstastic, if you don't want to teach your kids at home with that, I've also created a course where it's me explaining it. It's interactive, where it has I explain it, where they make that connection with the theory and the instrument, which means that they play with the music theory of my courses. If you don't have time at all, your teachers have no time, they can just get the course and they can do it by themselves with the course in a sense at home. So at least you know that they are covered, because kids love playing new pieces. And oh yes, I crossed that song off. I can learn something else. Say, oh, I'm learning something new. And with the whole concept of them understanding how to read music or rhythm, then you get them say, oh, I want to, yes, I finished that book and now I'm moving on to grade 2. And I've got a lot of feedback with examiners telling me that, your students, out of all the teachers, your students, their sight reading are actually better than a lot of other teachers there, and that helps in terms of that examination. So that's a missing part. But the thing is, once your students or your kids know how to read, it opens a wide range in terms of what they can do and what they can play. So when you come into a music store, they'll be like, oh, I want to get this book because I can play these songs now. Or I want to play Pirate of the Caribbean. Maybe the rhythm's a bit tricky. Or Frozen. I don't know if Frozen is still a thing now. But there's so many different variations, and it opens up opportunity where, yes, I can do this now. Or yes, I can play with my friends. Or yes, I can do a talent show, and schools have talent shows. Or I can upgrade to the next string ensemble. And it is a lot of fun in terms of the whole process of learning. So, stay updated. If you follow String Center on social media, you can follow String Center on social media. Otherwise, if you're in this part of the world or in any part of the world, if you want to stay updated with what Stringstastic has to offer, you are more than welcome to follow Stringstastic. Now, what time do we have? Oh, we're quite early. All right, any questions whatsoever? Yes?
Who are your 2 mascots?
Oh, thank you. Susie and Tommy. Kids love them. Susie and Tommy out front. You guys want to pick one? You can pick Susie, the koala, and you can pick Tommy. All right, Susie and Tommy are the mascots. They are the main characters of my books. Not these cute little ones. Those cute little ones. I want to thank my mom for this, because initially Stringstastic was going to be a bear and a rabbit. And then my mom was like, you're in Australia. And there's no books that has koalas and kangaroos. So these, Susie and Tommy are the main characters of my books, and they actually designed by me. The illustration was done by my colleague, and it's them explaining it. I know they don't have fingers, but it's them explaining the concept of it. I did have this feedback from a really weird teacher that was like, your book is not multicultural enough, which is really strange because I have Asian students looking. There is two kids in the book as well. There's a girl and a boy, and the girl is brown haired, but I've got Asian kids that are like, oh, that's me, you know. So I don't know, like weird teachers say weird things sometimes, where they're like, your book is not multicultural enough, so I don't want to use your books. But we've got Tommy and Susie there that explains things, and I don't think kids look at it as, that doesn't look like me. Like kids connect themselves with the character, even though it's a different hair color. It doesn't matter, you know. But my kids love them, and I use them as a tool as well for teaching. So I'm like, all right, you know, if you do well, you can play with Tommy, or if, you know, they like it where I want to be like Susie, where I'm playing the instrument as well as Susie does, or as well as Tommy does. Tommy plays the cello, Susie plays the violin. So yeah, there is Susie. Yeah, so that's where the characters comes from. And it makes it fun, you know, instead of just the boring old notations on the book. Yes?
Could you just explain the difference between your with the mini players S4 and then
Okay.
and
I think I mentioned it this about, I'll mention it again. So I started out with these guys, and I started out with violin because I'm originally a violin player. But when I started conducting is when I saw the limitations of it. And then double bass players came up to me. They're like, Lorraine, you got to create the double bass books. So there are full range where it covers. These are for primary school kids. That's why these things, the graphics. The feedback that I've got is apparently there are some primary school kids that they are like, oh, that's too kiddish for me. But the feedback I got was teenagers love using them because they love going back to being, you know, they're like, oh my gosh, it's so cute, I want to do this. So apparently the feedback is teenagers love doing this too. I don't know, it's a bit weird this day and age. It's knowing the audience, right? These guys are designed for slow beginners or very young players. So if this can be a little bit overwhelming for kids that are slow learners because there's too much information, and some kids can't register too much information. So what I do is I do these books first because it's small information where they can actually think and register it. And then after you move from this, if you move on to this books, it's more of a recap of what they're learning on top of extra ones. So it depends on how the progress in terms of the learning. You can always go from this and then recap to this one. So I've got a 4-year-old that actually started with this book instead of this book. And that's because like they are quick learners. So it really depends on your child whether or not they're quick learners.
Well, that kind of ties in actually with the question I was going to be asking. My daughter has been learning the cello for 3 years, and we've been told she's doing really, really well with it. However, she's been learning the Suzuki method, and what we've realised during the recent summer holidays is that she actually doesn't know much theory behind it at all. And she's been doing really well because she's mimicking or copying her tutor or the rest of her ensemble almost perfectly. She's actually hero spicy, so it kind of adds a whole extra level of learning for her. I know a little bit of theory because I did music way back when. She hasn't learned the piano. Where would she fit into this? Because she knows enough that she wouldn't be an absolute brand new beginner, but she doesn't quite have the confidence yet to really progress through to what would be the equivalent of 4th grade.
So
So where does that fit into it?
very good question. I would suggest go from the very beginning.
Yes.
And then they're like, oh, it's too easy. It's like, yeah, I want to see how fast you can finish this book. Let's see if you can do it within a week. I don't know. Like, it depends on how competitive they are. Let's see if you can do it within a week. And then let me quiz you. Take the flashcards. All right, what's this? Let me transcribe it into the instrument. See if you can play this.
So it's a lot easier to start from the beginning
Yeah, because you want to because you want to create the confidence from the very beginning, rather than, oh, let's see if you can do it in the middle. Like for me as a teacher, I'm like, you can only move forward with your theory until you get 90% out of 100 for your grade 1. If you get below 90%, no, we got to do it again, because I want you to be completely solid with the foundation of what you know from the basic, and then you move on, because then it's easier. If they keep learning new things when they're not confident in something, then it takes away their confidence in terms of what else they need to learn. They're like, it's too hard, I don't want to do this.
That was exactly what we found during school holidays, is that there were pieces there where, according to what the tutor was saying, she should be able to play it, but as soon as she was on her own, it was like, I don't know who to copy.
Yeah.
How to do this without copying.
Yeah.
What do I actually do?
Yeah, and kids can be very sneaky. They're like, oh, can you play it for me first? Oh, no.
Can I watch it on YouTube?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that kind of is the point.
Yeah. But with that, like with the reading as well, then you can also notice whether or not your kid needs glasses too. Because usually kids, when they memorize, is because they can't see it. So you can kind of figure out, oh, maybe we need to get your eyes checked because they can't see it properly. That means that's why they don't want to read it. So it's like, okay, let's figure out if you actually need glasses. But I've learned in the earlier days where the kids are like, can you play for me first? And then I realized that they've got really great memory, which is amazing. But say, oh, let me test to see if you can actually read it. I'm not going to do it. It's like, oh, but I can't do this. I'm like, I think you can. Let's start with just bar 1. Because if you're like, all right, I want you to do the whole song, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do it. It's like, if you want to do the whole line, it's like, some kids are like, oh, overwhelmed as well. So I don't want to do this. So okay, let's just start with bar 1. And then we take it from there. But yeah, transition. It's always good to be very confident from the beginning rather than maybe. Any other questions? Yes?
I have one about those rhythm games you were doing, which are great. It seems that's a real link between integrating the rhythm and reading the music, like you were saying. It's the link to make it practical. Do you have those games or resources on your website, or are they in the book? You know, the metronome game, the clapping. Like, how would you tie that in, like with your kids? Like, is it somewhere?
Okay.
In your resources?
Love that. So.
I've written it down, but.
So those flashcards are downloadable from my website.
And how to do the games also, like,
the introduction.
Teacher, it's kind of,
yeah, Introduction to the Rhythm is on book 3, on the purple book.
Which one's book 3?
On the purple book. So it explains rhythms.
Oh, so violin, for example, how many books are there for violin?
3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the blue one would be.
The blue one is just the fingers and the notations and the basic.
And that's book 3.
Yeah.
I see.
The extension, like book 2, is more of, okay, let's add in dynamics on top of it. Now that you know your notation, let's add dynamics, let's add more. And then let's do the definition. What's a DC? What is a DS? What is all this? Just a little bit. And then this one is the rhythm, because then they know more rhythms on top of that.
Games, the ideas are in there.
Yeah.
And that rhythm. Okay, perfect. Great. I'll look it up.
And then these are like stick notations. So it gets them to write it down. So instead of just coloring it and all these things, it's easier to write. So the exercises are all there as well. And then there's some where it says more printable rhythm, make dictation. That should be on the website. Yeah. And then it helps them in terms of scales. Kids hate scales. I remember I hated scales. I played like 10 million of them a week.
Is there a secret to help them?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Which book is
Hey! Book 2.
Okay.
Book 2, it talks about scales. The introduction of book 2, it covers in terms of scales. What happens, it talks about, I'm going to take the violin one. Violin, a lot from there. Okay, so the violin and the viola and the cello, it talks about the distance between the fingers, whether or not it's next to each other or apart. And the name, we call it semitones and tones. So they understand the patterns. They understand the pattern with semitones and tones, the distance. And then they know how to calculate where, all right, now to play the scale, I just follow the pattern instead of playing it 10 million times, where it's like tone, tone, semitone. All right, tone, tone, semitone, instead of playing 10 million times. And then they can play it. So my kids love playing scales. And then the next hurdle is more of getting the finger in the right spot. That's the next thing. But then with this one, it explains the semitones and tones. And you go, all right, is it a semitone? Is it a tone? How far apart is it? So they think of it that way in regards to the distance of the fingers, rather than playing a scale like 10 gazillion times. Because they hate playing scales. They're like, I don't want to practice scales. I just play pieces because I want to play pieces.
Is it helpful to put stickers on the string, like with the violin, to help them to memorize the position of the fingers?
It depends on what syllabus you're doing. I know the AMB, they're like, you can't do stickers as a grade 1? Yeah. Yeah, other examination board like Trinity and the ABRSM, I think they're okay with it. They don't really look at it. I guess you can do it, and then you're like, I'm going to take it away at this time. And again, take it away with that time. But the thing is, see if you can work with your teacher in terms of the posture, because the posture is, once you have like collapsed fingers and collapsed arms, it takes the pitch away. So if they can get that position properly, if you can recognize that, like learn that posture from the teacher, so you can go, all right, we don't want to have a collapsed arm, because that completely, if you notice that the finger moves, that takes the pitch off completely. So once you develop that really well, where the fingers are, the shape is correct, your pitch will have no problem whatsoever. So that's the main thing you have to learn as parents, is understand that shape, so that when you're at home, it's like, okay, we need to do this shape. That at least, because you're doing this, it's a squeezing movement as well. And they're like, that's too painful, I don't want to learn an instrument. And then the pitch. So that would help in terms of the pitch. But once they have that pitch, the posture properly, the shape, you don't have to worry about the pitch at all. So then you're like, okay, let me take this away. And then some teachers, I know my cello teacher, she would use lead pencil, and she would draw on the fingerboard. But the thing is, I don't know if you guys do that. Do you do that? But then it's like, all right, I know this day and age, I've got like students that have sweaty fingers, and the sweaty fingers is like, you got all the lead on your fingers, and then the lead's rubbed off. So, you know, it's finding cues kind of thing. I remember when I was learning, when shifting in different position, I'll put a dot or put a lead and shift. So it's giving them that training wheel, and then taking it out slowly. It's like, no, we got to take this out. But then it's talking with your teacher as well, because you need to be on the same page as the teacher. If not, you're like, okay, I'm using this to help my kid, and then the teacher's like, no, you're not supposed to, and take it out. So if you can have that conversation with the teacher, because the teacher is the one that's guiding it, if you can be on the same page as the teacher, you can say, can I use it, and then give a time frame for this week or this month, and then we can slowly take it away, so that they don't feel so overwhelmed in terms of, you know, no guidance, having no guidance. So I think the first fret, they've got levels where you can take a strip away. So you can, okay, all right, I'm going to use this. Before the exam, maybe you can do that, you know, where I'm going to take the first strip away, and then see if you can do that. And then the shifting, you still have guidelines with the shifting. So that could be a tip as well, in terms of slowly taking it away. If you have teachers that use the individual lines, because they do sell it here in the individual lines, instead of the whole sticker, you can go, all right, I'm going to take the second line away. All you have to remember is either the second finger is next to the first, or it's next to the third. So it's slowly taking that away, instead of, we're going to take the whole thing away, and say, oh, it's too hard. So it depends on your kid as well.
It's actually for me.
Oh.
My daughter started learning violin when she was little.
Yeah.
And then I got a violin here, so I bought one, and she quit. So I kept going.
Okay.
For 2 years, but I still got the stickers.
Yeah, well done. Well done. Yeah, but the tip is just the shape. The moment you have the shape, you don't need the stickers.
Yeah, so struggle with the shape.
Yeah, because you see, if you notice, if you do that, if all of you have this shape here, if you can just show your shape, the moment you collapse that, the fingers move. So as long as you have the correct shape, then your pitch will have no problem whatsoever.
You spoke about games with metronomes. You have similar games teaching pitch, intonation, and intervals.
The more they play, they can copy. Like if you want them to copy, you can copy. And you're like higher or lower. You can talk about the concept of higher or lower sounds. So that may be of hand, like it could be a handy. If not, you can get a tuner. I know you can download the tuners where you can play slow. Kids want to be fast. You say, okay, play slow, play a long note, and see with the fingers, see if it matches that tuner. So you can have it on the phone if you don't want to get the actual tuner itself. But again, you start from the very beginning with the tuning. Because if you want to go back to being slow and grade 3, or if they've already learned the instrument for 3 years, they don't want to do it. So getting them from the very beginning to, all right, let's do long scales and see if your fingers. But like I said, the moment you have the right shape, that eliminates all your pitch problem. Any other questions? Last one? Yes?
Do we have time? I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that integration of your book between the ensemble, where you were talking about conducting and how it improves the sight reading to have this support. Would that be something you mean at home, or something these books and tasks would be integrated into an ensemble? Or you mean encourage parents to use these books at home, then when they come along, their sight reading lifts the whole ensemble?
All right, so
Any ideas?
So from a conductor's point of view, I do have this conversation with the parent teachers. I said, look, I know you want to have an ensemble, and you want me to accept 80% of these students. And I know we want to grow this, but the criteria for an intermediate ensemble is that they can read notes. Because you want me to help, my language is you want me to help them progress up to advanced strings as quickly as possible. It doesn't matter. So if majority of the students in my ensemble can't read music, I would have a talk about, all right, we're going to do some ensemble music, but they have to do theory because the teachers are also Suzuki teachers. They have to do theory in my ensemble, which means they all have to have this book in an ensemble.
But they work on it at home, not in
They can do a little bit in the ensemble because then you as a teacher know whether or not they understand.
You'd say do page 10 or something.
Yeah, but you explain it for them and then get them to do like 1 or 2 and then say, okay, as homework. So that they understand it rather than explain it and then you do it as homework. Because you need to know if your students understand it first before they can do it as homework. If not, then you can say, okay, I encourage you, if like half of them knows the music already and half of them don't know how to read it, then you can say, I encourage you to do this if you want. The criteria of being an intermediate string is you need to do this at home because you need to, and give them a deadline. By 2 months, you need to know how to read music and rhythm. But for me, in my ensemble, if intermediate strings, I get them to do the rhythmic exercises. Yeah, rhythmic exercise, because then they know how to read the rhythms, and then the note reading is just another thing they have to do at home.
And these books are written so parents, even if they don't read music, they can support their kids, like you're saying. So
Absolutely.
it could be offered to everyone.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Nothing more? Now, your notepads. If you look behind your notepad, there is a sticker on top of that notepad. Next to you. Those that did not show up, the chair next to you, look behind of the notepad. There is a star sticker underneath the notepad. Now, on one of them. Okay, so do we have it? Yeah. You get my flashcards. So if you want it, you can have it. If you want to give it to somebody else, you can give it to somebody else. So these are flashcards you can do at home. Just cut it up and use it.
No, I'll give it.
Okay, so pick someone and give it to someone. There you go. All right, and I think you guys are giving 10% off my books today. So if you make a purchase today on the Stringstastic books, they are 10% off today only. So by all means, yeah. If any questions, you can always shoot me an email or you guys. Yes, Susie and Tommy, get them. Your kids will love them. Look, they're already playing with them. So yeah, Susie and Tommy as well, 10%. But yeah, my books will help you even though you don't know how to read music. Doesn't matter. You can always trick your kids the fact that you know how to do it. All right, thank you.
We have